And welcome back to the campaign candidate one-on-one interview series that we're doing. It's actually just called the Candidate One-on-One Video Series, but I'm Cory King. If you haven't seen any of these videos before, I'm the Executive Director of the Bath-Brunswick Regional Chamber, and we do these videos just so you get to know more about the candidates that are on your ballot. And so I do need to put out a disclaimer here at the top. The Bath-Brunswick Regional Chamber does not endorse any candidates for Statehouse. Again, we're just doing these videos so you get to know folks like Ivon Prescott. Ivon, how are you?
I'm fine. My name is Ivon Prescott. I'm running for state representative in the District 100, and I've lived here for a few years.
So let me lay it out for the video. So for those that don't know how it works, I'm going to ask Ivon 5 questions. You just answered the first one, which is what district are you running for, and where does that cover? And we try to ask all the candidates the same questions, and then we'll go down different roads depending on answers. So question number 2, Ivon, tell us a bit about your background and why you're running for office.
I'm a maniac. I was born and raised here in Maine. I went to school in South Central Maine, Augusta Gardner, Chelsea, Pittston, the mishmash of which is South Central Maine. And I spent about 40 years outside of the state. Some of it was in the Navy, some of it was in Bible school. But I ended up getting stuck, in a sense, in Illinois. Ill-Illinois is what I call it. For a few years, for 27 years after I got out of the Navy, because I found a job that started 4 days after I was scheduled to get out, and it's difficult to turn that kind of thing down. And so I was stuck out there, but I saw a lot of things. I worked in customer service for about almost 40 years. So I was in the Navy for 10, so I've been around for a while. I've seen a lot of things. I've dealt with a lot of people, and one of the things we dealt with was when I worked for Kemper Insurance out in Illinois. The company had 326 people in the North Tower of the World Trade Centers, and they were well below where the aircraft hit on 9/11, but we saw some of that stuff happening on television. Part of the problem was they published our 800 number, and so we were getting calls from people whose family members or relatives or friends were in these other companies. We didn't even know where our own people were. So, it was a very traumatic day for us. But anyway, we made it through that. We were able to contact all of our people by about 10:30 that night. And so it was good for us, but not so good for other people. So why I'm running for office was when I came back to Maine in 2017. Paul LePage was a good governor, I think, and he did a lot of stuff. He gave us a surplus, and one of the things that came about when Governor Mills was running, ranked choice voting came into play. And when they were doing the clipboards, asking the questions if we were for it or against it, I asked somebody, I said, well, why are you doing this? And he said, well, because we don't want people like Paul LePage getting in office again. So that was very frustrating for me to see that the ranked choice voting, which to me is unconstitutional because you're giving a person more than one vote, basically. You're giving them a vote for more than one candidate. And so that was part of the impetus to move on to this. And the other thing was the fact that the last legislative sessions, 80% of Mainers were against a lot of the things that they passed in the House and Senate. And that was very frustrating for me. And so this year, the state GOP sent me an email asking for people who wanted to run for office. And I responded saying I was willing to do that. And so they helped me get started. And here I am.
Here we are.
Oh, it's late in the game, but I started late compared to some of the other candidates. But it depends on the message. If the message resonates with people, then they'll vote for me. If it doesn't, then it's just the way it is.
I love that perspective of yeah, you wanted to make a change, and you did. There's so many people that feel passionately about things that are happening, but they don't take that extra step into action, and that's
Right.
it's really nice. Question 3: what are the top 3 issues affecting Mainers right now that you look forward to working on if elected?
Well, the most local thing is, of course, the AFFF spill and the base. And I was in the Navy for 10 years. I was on a ship for 5. We had a triple F in our hangar, helo hangar, and it wasn't an issue as long as things are maintained properly. It's not an issue. It's not a problem. It's not unsafe. But unfortunately, what happened here was a mechanical issue. Something failed, the valve failed or something, which caused the spill. And I understand that the chemicals themselves are tough to deal with, but we have to let the process work out. We have to let the Navy liaison, because he's the Navy is responsible to clean up these Superfund sites, and this hangar system is a big part of that. So we're going to let them deal with it and not panic and get emotional about what's going on. That to me is a big issue. And so that's the first one. The other one is another one is the fact that in walking the streets of Brunswick, I've seen a lot of vacant homes and a bunch of vacant businesses, and we've got to do something for the people who live here in Maine and in Brunswick to see if we can get landlords to, reduce costs of rents for these things so that people can move into them. And, if a landlord leaves a house empty, nobody gets paid. Nobody gets any benefit from that. But if he is willing to reduce his rents or whatever to get somebody in there, everybody benefits. He gets money, the renter has a place to live, and the taxes go to the town. Everybody benefits if we just don't go nuts on trying to expect high costs and high rents. And that's another thing.
Well, I mean, on those first two, yeah, the AFFF, huge issue. When people were asking the chamber, hey, what's the chamber's stance on this? And our stance is, let's make sure that the water's clean. Let's make sure that the water's clean, and also let's get that message out there. That none of these tests have come back negatively yet. Which is great, but as I said at a couple of the meetings with Mira, and I wrote in a column in the paper, if the worry about this makes some of these businesses lose 10% of their sales, we don't know how that's going to affect their business. That might mean people are losing jobs. That might mean, that they have to cut back their hours. I mean, you don't know how close a business is to their bottom line. And something like this, if a scare happens, can really prevent people from having success. And so just making sure, like, let's figure out the water part of it first, right? And make sure that we're clean and safe in that way.
I was at one of the meetings when Mira gave a little spiel on it, and I asked a few questions myself. But the thing I got from that was some gentleman got up and said that his livelihood depends on keeping the AFFF, keeping that thing going, because you can't just shut things off because it's federally, it's a federal requirement that these hangars have some sort of firefighting foam blanket to keep, any flame, to suffocate any fire that might start. So it has to be there. And the Navy is, they've got to figure out a solution that's going to be easily replaced with what's there, and so that a seamless change to the new system. And we can let that process work itself out.
That takes time, but I remember that person too saying that the same thing about their business.
Yeah.
And the other thing with the vacancies and that sort of thing, a way for everyone to lower their taxes to get more people on the tax rolls. That's something else. Any other issues that you're thinking about, hearing about? Doesn't have to be 3. 3 would just happen to be the number.
That's the main stuff that I'm thinking about.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Question 4. If voters could only know 2 things about you before they fill out their ballot, what would those 2 things be? I'll be honest, I've asked this question to a few others, saying after you knock on someone's door and you're walking back down the driveway, what are 2 things you hope they remember about you? So take it however you want, but that's.
I think the biggest thing, the people that I've run into, that I've talked with, my palm cards, I left them in my car, but I left one on this lady's mailbox, and she came out, got it, went back inside, and came back out and said, hey, can you wait a minute? I want some more of your palm cards, because basically the first line that I have is faith, family, and founding principles. That is what I want to guide what happens with me in the House of Representatives. You know, it's got to start with faith. It's got to start with a God that's bigger than you, because if you make yourself your own God, it's not a good thing. You got to have a moral God who's bigger than you, who has rules to live by that are moral and that you can count on, you know, something that doesn't change. And that's what faith in God is, a big thing. And family, I'm all for family. I'm all for giving people the opportunity to have a life, to have a living, to you know, I'm also against abortion. I'm sorry to say, but I'm against it because one thing people don't understand, when you abort a child, you not only abort that child, you abort every child that ever comes from that child. Also, you kill the producers of goods, you kill the consumers of goods. Toys R Us went out the door because one of the big things is they promoted Planned Parenthood, and eventually there were no more kids really to that would buy clothes and toys and things at the store. So they put themselves out of business. So, and not only that, the other thing related to that is you need to have like 2.2 births per family in order to sustain the population. And we are down probably at 1.6, and we are going the very wrong direction in population growth. And that's not a good thing for America, for any nation. So,
Well, and Maine is the oldest state, you know, in the union too, you know, and it's like we do need more young families.
so that would be another thing I would like to work on, is to try to draw businesses into the state when I get in the legislature, which will draw families into the state, and will can reduce that average age, you know, median age, and you know, because Maine has got good people, we've got good workers, we've got people who have this ethic, you know, and I was in the Navy, so I have that ethic too, you know, when I was born here too, so I've got that, you know. So we've got to bring that back, and we've got to bring back businesses, and we've got to bring back young people, and allow them to grow and develop, and get rid of these Chinese pot farms that are out there. We got to stop selling land to those people.
I don't know how to respond.
That's a jump from everything else, but
It is.
But it does go with the family thing, because if you have all this junk in the state, I mean, you're going to kill families. And
You should use it faith, family, and foundational, founding rituals. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Well, great. Anything I didn't ask you about before I get to the last question that you want to put out there?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we covered enough for people to get to know you. So question 5 is, what's the best way for people to connect with you to find out more about you as a candidate?
My email address is iprescottsrepd100@yahoo.com. So basically, first initial, last name, state rep, district 100, and that's my email at yahoo.com. My phone number, you can reach, I call it my bat phone. It's the one I use for, that's the one I use for, I try to keep my personal stuff separate from, you know. So my phone number, you can reach me by phone or text, 207-449-8294. So.
Awesome. Very nice to meet you, and good luck with the race and everything.
Thank you, sir.
All right.